She has one of the most polarizing jobs in the world, but she's also incredibly successful. Lana Rhodes, probably the world's richest actress in the adult film industry, if you know what we mean. In this video, we will show you a day in her unusual life, which, by the way, includes much more than just performing in front of the camera. We also tell you some stories from her life and her profession, which shows that even as the most successful actress in her industry, life is absolutely no bed of roses. For a curious working day, gritty stories, and much more, be sure to stay tuned here at Wonderlane. Before we start with a day in the life of Lana Rhodes, we want to show you who she actually is. Meet Amara Maple. That's Lana Rhodes' real name. She was born near Chicago in 1996. She grew up there and developed into a real rebel in her teenage years. Still in her adolescence, she became a criminal, committing burglary and stealing among other things, and was finally also caught by the police with illegal substances. All this led to the fact that the young girl from Chicago was sentenced to 5 years in prison at the age of 16. But Amara managed to be released after just 1 year due to good behavior. And even though the time in prison was traumatic for her as a teenager, she herself describes it nowadays as the most important thing that has happened to her in her life so far. After she was released from prison, Amara started to become independent. At the age of 17, she left her parents' house and started to waitress, and 1 year later, she started to work as a dancer in nightclubs. At that time, she also developed the desire to become an actress for adult films, according to her own statements, because she imagined the profession to be easy and extremely glamorous. So it wasn't long before Amara decided to make a radical change. She moved to Los Angeles, got in touch with agents for adult films, and gave herself a new identity, Lana Rhodes. From there on, things went rapidly upwards, or maybe downwards. Lana starred in over 50 productions in a very short time and quickly became one of the most celebrated performers. She won awards, attended trade shows, and even gathered hundreds of thousands of fans, making her the most sought-after adult performer. But what does a day in her life look like? It starts in the morning in her own luxury villa in the middle of LA, which the current 25-year-old was able to afford at the age of 22. Here, her day usually starts alone, even though she's been in an on-off relationship with YouTuber Mike Malak for a few years now. And indeed, her morning contains a few surprises. One of the first things Lana does in the morning is take care of her numerous animals. She has 5 dogs, has adopted 3 geese from an animal shelter, and has a small hamster. And the animals need food, and of course, also attention. In addition, the star naturally takes care of her appearance. According to her own statements, Lana spends about an hour every morning with skin and facial care, as well as styling. And then she moves on to what is probably the most surprising activity in her morning routine. Lana reads the current issue of the Wall Street Journal every morning and informs herself about politics, the economy, and current events. Because, as she herself has said in interviews, her knowledge and education is more important to her than her hair or outfit. After the morning program, her actual working day begins. On shooting days, this means that Lana first has to travel to the shooting location. For most productions, she is picked up by a driver. The locations are usually short-term rented villas or similar sets, often in the Los Angeles area because that's where most of her clients are based. On location, Lana first has to prove that she has an acute test. Not for COVID-19, but for other communicable diseases. Usually, only then does she get to know her shooting partners for the day. Next, makeup and styling begins, along with initial meetings with the director, while the team continues to build the set. The shoots then often last several hours, and not infrequently spread over several shooting days. But after her shooting day, Lana's work is not over yet. Because especially in the last few years, a second activity came into her life, which probably takes even more time. Meanwhile, Lana is also active as an independent influencer on all platforms. She has over 16 million Instagram followers, runs her own YouTube channel and a podcast, is active on OnlyFans, and regularly appears in the videos of pretty much all the big YouTubers from LA. With this second occupation, Lana is also representative of an important trend. Through her position as an influencer, she is becoming increasingly independent of the classic adult industry, where until a few years ago, it was often the case that producers and agents earned more money with the films than the actresses, who were often downright exploited. However, platforms such as OnlyFans and other websites are now changing the course. Lana often spends her evenings in good restaurants with her well-known friends, but occasionally she also likes to stay at home, where she often reads books to educate herself. However, this is only half the truth about Lana Rhodes and her life, because in the meantime, the 25-year-old has changed a lot. In 2020, she announced that she wants to completely withdraw from the adult business. This is for several reasons. In her podcast, she said that she suffered a lot from her job, had many traumatic experiences, and that she even regrets her job. Furthermore, she announced more than a year ago that she was pregnant and is now even a mother to her little son named Milo. During her pregnancy, she also temporarily lived together with her boyfriend Mike. Her everyday life is of course completely different than before because of the little baby. Although Lana, or rather Amara, is still active online and even made headlines recently because she allegedly cheated on some of her fans with NFTs, she set up her own NFT project with self-painted pictures and sold parts of it to serious investors first. This is how Amara made it look like the project was actually valuable, and then introduced it to her 16 million Insta followers and even opened her own Discord server for the project. After thousands of her fans bought into the project, Lana then sold her shares, making over $1 million in profits in no time. Despite or because of such actions, Amara still lives in luxury. According to some sources, her fortune is now well over $20 million. Her villa is still her own, and she drives a Lamborghini Huracan that costs $250,000, which she says she bought out of frustration. Nevertheless, she also knows that she can never undo her past, and through her podcast, she hopes to give young girls self-confidence and keep them from pursuing professions they don't really want to do. After all, almost nothing is more important than being at peace with yourself and what you do, and really have fun while doing it. But since her fraud scandal, she has also come under a lot of criticism, while she herself says that she never intended to deceive anyone and is not responsible for the bad investments of individual people. But what do you think of her? Write it down in the comments. With that in mind, we'll see you next time, here at Wonderlane.